Hi all, our instructive game today will be demonstrating the power of a mighty knight when weak squares are created by the opponent. So in this game, Garry Kasparov was playing white against Grandmaster Jonathan Speelman. So Kasparov, the most frightening Grandmaster of them all, with the white pieces. How did Speelman win this game? And how did he get this mighty knight? So, he plays the Leningrad Dutch defence, which g6 now signals, and Kasparov plays knight h3. So with knight h3, there's a typical plan of the knight coming to f4 later, and white usually playing d5 as soon as black plays d6. And in this game we see that happening. So after bishop g7, c4, Speelman plays d6. Now, ordinarily, white would castle, and maybe, black would castle and play queen e8, followed by e5, with an equalish game. Kasparov, though, he clamps down on d5, and after castles, he doesn't play the routine castles, but instead challenges Speelman by playing knight c3. So Speelman now undermines d5 by playing c6. And after knight f4, bishop d7 was played. So this is a very interesting waiting move. Seeing, if Kasparov will now castle, but actually, Kasparov uses this opportunity to lunge his h-pawn at Speelman. So it's a seemingly ferocious attack here, and it may have been prepared, opening theory by Kasparov. So Speelman now plays bishop h8, and still Kasparov does not castle. He plays actually e4, so trying to open up the centre. But in doing so, there's a slight concession now, in that the d3 and f3 squares are slightly weakened. And it is the scene here is now set for this knight on b8 to become very, very dangerous later, as we're about to see. So after knight a6, h5 is played. Speelman does something very, very daring now. He weakens his own king even further by playing the move g5. So after bishop takes e6, d takes e6, what can Speelman do here? Threatened with bishop takes g5 and also e takes f5. It looks like a very dodgy position. He plays knight takes e4. So he's now threatening a very quick knight takes c3. Kasparov has to do something about this knight on e4. He plays bishop takes e4, and instead of recapturing casually with f takes e4, Speelman gives up his dark squared bishop. Kasparov takes on c3, and after f takes e4, bishop takes g5 is played. He plays knight c5, and the knight now is going to come to d3 with check, and there's a dangerous threat on the f2 pawn now, when the knight and rook can work together. So Kasparov plays bishop e3, which still has very, very ominous threats now of, say, queen g4 check, king h8, and then bishop d4 mating. So the absence of this dark squared bishop is really felt. So Speelman has to desperately seal up these squares, the queen coming to g4. He first plays knight d3 check, and after king f1 he plays rook f3. The worst is not over though. Kasparov isn't finished yet. He plays rook h4. And now, if Speelman had played the casual d5 supporting e4, Kasparov would have then been able to unleash queen takes f3, which would be mating Speelman on the spot. Actually in 6 moves, because after e takes f3, rook g4 check would be mating. It would be all over. If Speelman played king h8 here, bishop d4 mating, and if king f8, then there would have been still a mate in 2 with bishop h6 check, king e8, and rook g8 mate. So Speelman did well not to get mated. In this position, he turns the tables on Kasparov by playing an ingenious exchange sacrifice. Speelman now plays the move rook takes e3, sacrificing the exchange. Kasparov plays queen g4 check, forcing king h8, and instead of casually recapturing, Kasparov threatens mating 1 with h6. So Speelman is forced to play queen f8 now. And now Kasparov exchanges off queens forcibly, using that h6 hook to do this. So in this endgame now, we have an interesting dynamic of the 2 rooks versus the rook and knight. But in black's favour, white has totally shattered pawns. All the pawns are like isolated and doubled. Double pawns here, isolated pawn. And it is this kind of position that Speelman excels in, where he has dynamic compensation and his opponent has a shattered pawn structure. He first plays rook f8 check, and after king g1 the rook comes to f3. So at this moment both his pieces occupy those weak squares d3 and f3. Kasparov offers the trade of rooks, which Speelman, he plays to avoid. He plays rook takes g3 check, and after king h2 he now offers Kasparov the exchange of rooks because he doesn't fear this endgame after collecting that g3 pawn. So rook f3 was played. Kasparov, though, doesn't like the thought of a pawn potentially coming to f2 or the king coming to munch up e6. He chases black's king now with rook g1 check. So the black king is being chased now around the board to f5. And after rook takes h7, king takes e6. Kasparov now gangs up on black's e7 pawn by doubling rooks on the 7th rank. Now, ordinarily, this would be a big advantage, but the black knight is very powerful in this position and defends the black king quite successfully with just knight e5. So after rook takes e7 check, king f6, that knight is doing heroic work here, you know, protecting that f7 square, because otherwise black would be losing that rook on f3. So rook takes b7, rook takes e3, and now Kasparov plays check, so the king comes to g5. After rook takes d6, we still have a very interestingly balanced position, and Speelman now takes on c3, and after rook b3, Speelman avoids the exchange of rooks here. He keeps rooks on with rook c2 check. So king g3, rook takes a2, and now we see Speelman has 2 pawns for the exchange. It's looking a lot more promising. After rook d4, king f5 is played, and after rook e3, it looks as though Speelman's in trouble again. He's going to lose this pawn. But he plays an ingenious move now. He plays knight g4, encouraging Kasparov to win that pawn, because after rook a3 check, king h4, knight f2, and we reach a position now where white's rooks are both hanging after king e5. So the knight is immune. It can't be taken as if king takes d4. And there's no rook e4 check here. Kasparov here plays c5, and now we see an ingenious tactic. Rook h3 check, driving the king to an unfortunate square, and now playing rook e3. Speelman has introduced 2 threats here. Knight h3 check, forking king and rook, and also knight e4 check with the idea of king takes d4. So forcibly winning the exchange back from Kasparov. That knight has turned into a hero in this game. After rook a4, knight h3 check is played, so winning the exchange back and winning the game, as this is now a clear win. After knight takes f4, Kasparov can't play rook takes f4 because of rook e4 and a clearly winning king and pawn ending. So Kasparov's last move, he plays rook takes a7, and after knight e6 he's had enough. He resigns. So in this game we witness this powerful knight, humble, you know, at the beginning, starting from b8, having a fantastic journey to the d3 square and being a real hero in that endgame. Let's have a look in overview and summary. So a Dutch defence and the Leningrad variation being played by Speelman. Kasparov playing it very, very aggressively, not even bothering to castle kingside, just scaring Speelman probably, you know, a lot during the game by this lunging of the pawn to h5 here. Maybe this was all preparation, who knows. But Speelman dared to play the move g5, not only weakening his king further, but also offering Kasparov his dark square bishop. So normally this would be suicide against a player like Kasparov, because basically his king has weaknesses and there's a dislocating pawn on e6. In theory, making it even harder to defend this kind of position. But after bishop takes g5, knight c5 is just in time, because of this coordination of rook and knight on the f2 pawn. So Kasparov played bishop e3, and after knight d3, king f1, now rook f3 was played. So Kasparov's rook h4 was parried ingeniously. d5 would have been inadequate because of queen takes f3, mating the black king. So Speelman played a totally ingenious move, rook takes e3, with great compensation for the exchange. White had a completely shattered pawn structure, and like in the game we saw yesterday of Speelman's against Short, Speelman kind of excels in these kind of dynamic positions where the opponent has a shattered pawn structure. So in this endgame it was easy for black, even the exchange down, to mop up these pawns because the knight was so strong. It also defended black's king from being mated and allowed black to carry on the mopping up of the fractured pawns. So this is a very, very difficult endgame for white to play. And Kasparov, I believe, went wrong marching his king to the h4 square. He could have perhaps repeated position. After this rook h8 a3 check. Maybe he should have just retreated with king g2 with an equal position. But instead he went forward, and now black started having a big advantage after knight f2, because it was very, very, very difficult for white to do anything in this position. In fact, Kasparov's next move is recommended by Rivka, but there doesn't seem to be anything better here. So c5 was played, and Speelman forcibly won the exchange, and with that the game, with this amazing rook e3 move, threatening both knight h3 check, full king, king and rook, and also knight e4 check, winning that rook there. So Kasparov had nothing better here than rook a4. So he loses the exchange, and with that, that's the end of the game. So I hope you enjoyed that game, and please leave any comments on YouTube. Thanks very much.